Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. Another day, another Anastasia palette. I was totally not expecting to film this video today, but here we are. I have never ever received PR from Anastasia before. They asked me for my address like a couple of months ago. I was so excited about it. I gave it to them. But sometimes these big companies, when it comes to like us, smaller YouTubers, they don't really send us the new releases or anything. They'll send the box with like older products they've had forever. And I had never worked with Anastasia before, but I kind of assumed that was the case. I surely wasn't expecting for my first ever Anastasia PR box to contain a brand new palette. Now, I've talked about this palette before in my channel. I have been waiting for it to launch, and just today, the day I'm filming this video, I think it launched on the Anastasia website. I was actually waiting to buy it from either Sephora, Ulta, or Nordstrom because for some reason I thought I would get it quicker there. But anyways, when I got home today and I saw that I had an Anastasia box waiting for me, I lost it. So once I opened it and I saw that the brand new spanking palette, the Rose Metals palette from Anastasia, was inside it, I was so happy. And here we are. Let's go ahead and start reviewing it. Take a look right here at what the box looks like. It's this pewtery metallic outer packaging, and the palette right now, the day I'm filming this video, is only available on the Anastasia website. But if you're interested in buying it, definitely check the description box below for links, because I'll list all of the retails that are carrying this palette down there as soon as they release it. Let me go ahead and open the box and show you the interior packaging. I don't know about you, but when I was looking at the promo pictures of this one, I hated the packaging. And I have to admit that it's not as bad as I thought. I actually quite like the finish of it. It's like this like worn leather thing. Really cool looking in my opinion. I love the texture of it. And it also has these little like metallic details right here on the edge that I really like. Now what throws me off about this palette's packaging is once you open it, by the way, take a look at the interior of it. It is so beautiful. But all of the like metallic finishes in between each shades visually throw me off. It makes me feel like there's a lot going on when in reality it's a pretty nice wearable palette. As you can see, it has like a neutral side to it. I'm not gonna call it cool tone because I really don't think it's that cool tone. It's more so neutral, and then this side right here is mostly a little bit on the warmer side, with the exception of this one shade right here. The palette contains 12 different shades and it retails for $55. So if you've seen or you own the Novo palette from Anastasia that came out a few months ago right here, these two, as you can see, are the exact same size, just different color stories. And don't worry, towards the end of the video I will do swatch comparisons with this one and some of my other Anastasia palettes in the collection if you're interested. Now that I mentioned swatches, let's actually go ahead and swatch this palette. Let's start with the shade Rose Quartz, which is a beautiful cool-toned rose shimmer shade. Then the shade Royal, which is a shimmer burgundy shade right here. The color Haze is like a metallic dark pewter with maybe a hint of a green undertone to it. And Rose Fire is like a metallic orangey gold. The color Sunrose is like a mustardy shade with maybe a little bit more brown in it, and it's one of those shades that swatches matte, but if you look at it on the pan, it has little tiny sprinkles of shimmer thrown in there. I believe that they put those in the formula because it makes the mattes a little bit more blendable, but as you can see, they're not visible on the swatch at all. The color Nova, I'm not sure how to describe, but maybe it's like a bronze with a hint of green to it. And starting on the second row, we have the shade Heavenly, which is going to be a great inner corner shimmer. It is a beautiful, very light silver metallic shade. Actually, I don't even think I can call that a silver. It's like between silver and gold, but like almost white. I honestly don't think I have any other shade quite like this one in my collection, because it's not white, but it's not silver and it's not gold. It's like a combination of it all. The color Element right here is like a true dark bronze type of shade, maybe with a hint of rose to it. Here's the first true matte shade that I'm swatching. Is the color Ashes, and it's like a taupey gray type of a shade. Like I said, it is a matte. And then the color Dune, which is also a matte. This one here is like a brown with a red undertone. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm having a hard time describing these shades because they're all kind of a combination of different colors. None of them is like plain. All of them are kind of special. The last two shades, one of them is Nocturne right here, which is again hard to describe. It's not a bronze, maybe like a very dark pewter, I could say. And then the last shade is a matte, and I think this is the only like easy one. It's like a mid-tone brown with a cool undertone. The worst part is that I don't even know if those descriptions help at all. But anyways, take a look right here at the final swatches. As you can see, it's a really pretty, kind of interesting color story. A little on the grungy side. I feel like you have to like dark grungy looks to fall in love with this palette, but you guys know that I love to play with eyeshadows, and so of course I simply cannot wait to come up with some looks with this one. Alright, I got my hair out of my face and let's just start playing. I think I want to start with the color Sunrose right here. This is like a mustardy orangey type of a shade, and I want to use it as my transition color for the first look. I'm using a REPHR number 15 brush for this shade and just blending it back and forth all over the crease of my eye. To darken it up with my REPHR number 1, I'm going to use the color Dune, and I'm going to pat this color on the outer part of my eyelid and blend the edges of it back and forth right here into the crease. I was just looking on the ABH website, and it says that this color Dune is not meant to use around the eyes. And don't be scared, I'm gonna be okay. A lot of palettes say that. What that means is that this maybe might stain your eyelids, which a lot of like pressed pigments do. I feel like we're all kind of used to it by now. And so that's why they put that disclaimer there. But other than maybe your eyelid gets a bit stained for a few hours, nothing is going to happen. By the way, I'm putting it on the inner part of my lid right here, darkening everything up. With the REPHR number 2, I'm going to grab the color Rose Fire, and I'm going to add it on the edge of the color Dune on the inner and outer corner. So kind of on the center of the eyelid, but I'm going to leave a space right in the middle for another shade. So with my finger, I grab the color Heavenly, and I'm going to tap it right in the center of my eyelid here. Yes, I love the way that looks. And on a teeny tiny blending brush, this is my number 14 from REPHR, a bit more of the color Dune to intensify the very outer part back here and right here on the inner third of my eyelid a bit more, just to bring back a little bit more of that dimension that the matte gives against the metallic shades. Underneath the eye with my REPHR number 13, I'm grabbing a bit of the color Dune and blending it right on the outer third back here. Actually, I was going to copy what I did on top underneath, but I'm not. I'm just going to bring it all the way to the tear duct area. With the color Sunrose, which is the color I used as a transition shade on top, I'm going to smoke out the under eye as well. And back with the color Heavenly, which is the one I used right in the center. Using a flat REPHR number 28 brush, I'm going to do the inner corner of the eye here. So take a look right here. This is the first look with this palette. I'm absolutely obsessed with how good the color Heavenly looks right there in the middle. It makes this look special because other than that, it's just like a burnt orangey smoky eye, but the color Heavenly in the center really makes it pop. I put a bronzy metallic eyeliner in my waterline. This one is from Il Maquillage, part of the Kathleen Lights collection. Absolutely everything I'm using in today's video will be linked down below, so definitely check out all of the links down there. I went ahead and cleaned my brushes, so let's go ahead and do another look over here. And I have to start with the color Ashes as my transition shade. Once again, using my REPHR number 15 brush for my crease. And I'm just going to blend this really nice cool tone shade all throughout the crease of my eye back here. I'm adding a little bit more to intensify things and just blending it back and forth. With my REPHR number 1 and the color Noble, I'm going to work on the outer third of my eyelid and smoke that color into the crease shade. This one is a pretty dark shade, so it's going to make this look really smoky. With my REPHR number 2, I want to try the color Nocturne, so I'm going to dab it in there. It's really dark, but whatever. I'm just going to tap it from the center of the eye out, a little bit over what I just did, but only on the eyelid. This one is a very intense shade for sure. And then back with my REPHR number 1, nothing added, just whatever's left of the color Noble. I'm going to back and forth diffuse the edges of that metallic shade. Next, I'm going to get the color Rose Quartz right here. This is a flat REPHR number 2, and I'm going to add that color to the rest of my eyelid. This rose is like a super grayish type of a rose color, kind of dull looking, but like in a good way. It's different. It's different from most rose shimmer shades. With the REPHR number 13, I'm going to grab the color Noble and blend it back and forth right underneath my eye here. A little bit more. I want to make it just as intense as it looks on top. And since this is such a cool tone with a bit of a hint of rose type of look, we are going to use my lip liner in the eyes trick because I wanted a pink eyeliner that wasn't too bright for underneath my eyes. So this is Rare Beauty's lip liner in the shade Worthy, and I'm just going to use this one in the waterline of my eye. See, it's perfect right there. It has that hint of rose in it, and it's nice and nude still, nothing too loud, nothing too bright. I really like it for this look. With the REPHR number 14, a tiny bit of the shade Ashes, and I'm going to smoke things out even further down here. And with the REPHR number 28 and the color Heavenly, once again, I'm going to do the inner corner of my eye, blending it in through the crease a bit. Alright, so take a look right here. This is the second look with this palette. It's like total opposites. This is super warm and fun and fiery, and this one here is like grungy grayish. It's dark, slight hint of like barely pink in there. Anyways, let me go ahead and apply some mascara, and I will be right back to do some comparisons. I'm back because I want to add something else to this look. I'm not like fully happy with it. I'm like, it looks so dull kind of, right? So here's my solution, and I think it's going to work. The color Royal right here, which is one of the most fun looks in this palette. I have some on my finger, and I'm going to tap it right here in the center of my eyelid, right in between this dark shimmer and the light rosy shimmer right there, and just tap it in the middle. All right, here it is. What do you guys think? It didn't fully change the look, but I feel like it made it a bit more interesting. I like it better with that bit of color added for sure. I just went ahead and applied some mascara, and I wanted to show you what both of these eye looks look like with just mascara on. So take a look right here at the first one, nice and warm. This one's definitely a lot of fun in my opinion, and the totally perfect look for the fall time. And then we have look number 2 right over here, a lot more grungy, more cool toned, a hint of pink to it. Also really lovely. Now for the palette comparisons, I wanted to start with the last few Anastasia releases. So here's the new palette versus the Noble palette from Anastasia that launched just a few months ago. As you can see, the color stories are pretty different, but there are a few colors like this orangey warm shade right here that maybe matches a little bit. I'm going to be honest, all of the things that I swatched next to each other are kind of a far stretch. They don't really look like each other. So if you have the Novo palette and you're wondering whether or not this is similar at all, I don't think so, but let me show you what the colors that I swatched next to each other look like. So the top swatches are of course the swatches from the Rose Metals palette, and these are the shades that I found that maybe were like a teeny tiny bit similar to the shades on top. As you can see, this one's a lot darker than that one. The undertones of these two shimmer greenish shades are quite different. This one and that one are different types of depth, different undertones, and then these two I was trying to see if either one of them would match this green, but this is kind of a combination of the two shades, I would think. So yeah, these two palettes not too similar at all. Moving on to Rose Metals versus Primrose right here. Once again, it's like the warmish orangey shades that kind of look similar. And then I compared these two shades with this one and that one, just so you can see the color difference, because really they're not similar at all. These are more rose burgundy tones, and these are more of like a warm and cool brown type of a shade. So once again, all of these swatches are kind of like a far stretch. You can see there's a lot of shimmer difference between these two. This one's much darker than that one. Different undertones on those transition colors there. And then these two down here are the ones that I was pointing to. They're a lot more burgundy, more rose in those shades compared to the ones in the Rose Metals palettes. Moving on, let's now compare it to the Soft Glam palette from Anastasia, which is an old classic right here. As you can see, a lot of the colors, once again, are pretty different from one another. I did find one shade between these palettes that is very, very close though. Let me show you. So right over here we have some far stretches, and then the one shade I kind of thought looked like the one in the Rose Metals palette was the color Sultry from Soft Glam, which is pretty similar to this one up here. Other than that, the rest of the shades just have different intensities or different undertones, or are just completely different colors. Take a look at how the Rose Metals palette compares to Modern Renaissance right here. And this is actually so far the palette that has the most amount of very similar shades, and they basically are all four mattes. So all four mattes that you have in this Rose Metals palette have dupes in the Modern Renaissance palette. Let me show you. Take a look right there. Even with very slight undertone differences, I feel like these four matte shades look pretty much identical to one another, which was very interesting to find. And what's even more interesting is that it's just the four mattes. There's not one shimmer that looks like one another between those two palettes, but all four mattes in the Rose Metals palette have a dupe in Modern Renaissance. This is the last comparison with another ABH palette, Rose Metals versus the Sultry palette at the bottom. And within those two color stories, it's mostly a lot of like, not really. Like these two kind of like almost maybe, but not really. Same with these two. These two are actually not similar at all. The only two that maybe could be a dupe are these and those, but those are like super basic shades that we know could be easily duped, you know? I asked you over on Instagram and you wanted to see some palette comparisons with the Patrick Ta palette. I wasn't sure which one, so I grabbed this one. I have to admit there really aren't that many similarities between those two, maybe two shades. I have 4 total swatched right here, but really these two shimmers don't look like the shimmers on top at all, so just these two mattes kind of look like the palette on top, which has been what's happened with a lot of these palettes, that these two shades just seem to be very common. I wasn't sure if you meant the first Patrick Ta palette, so here's what it looks like in relation to the first Patrick Ta palette right here at the bottom. And believe it or not, there's actually more similarities between these two. I found 4 shades that are kind of similar between these two. This bronzy one, the same 2 mattes, which I mean this is a stretch, but you know, you can see it right there. And then this light shimmer maybe, but see how in comparison to this one, which is a true white shimmer, this looks a bit more golden. Lastly, I also got a request to see the new Anastasia palette next to the new My Dream palette from Natasha Denona. And well, here is what these look like in comparison to one another. In my opinion, pretty different color stories. There's a lot more pink and burgundy and purple in the Natasha Denona palette compared to the Anastasia, and the Anastasia has a lot more greenish hues in comparison to the Natasha Denona one. I tried my best to find dupes within those two color stories, but all of these are kind of a stretch and they just feel different. The colors aren't the same, the intensities aren't the same, etc. So let me finally give you my overall thoughts on this new Rose Metals palette from Anastasia. I'm going to be completely honest, and I was very thrilled that I got this scent in PR, but you guys know I'm always honest no matter what, and there's different releases that just kind of work for different tastes. I just don't think that this is my personal preference in a color story when it comes to palettes, and I really like the warm aspect to this palette. Like, this look right here is everything, I love it, but when it comes to the more dark grungy colors that this palette has, I find that they kind of look a little bit dull on my skin tone, or maybe it's just like not my personal taste. But this look right here, even though I like it, it's not a go-to look for me. Now, if you've watched my previous reviews on Anastasia palettes, you guys know I usually really like them. This release was very exciting to me. I was all about it, highly recommended it. The one from holiday last year, the Primrose palette, even though it had these weird blush shades right here, this part of the palette is like my ideal color stories, and not all palettes can be the same because then that would be awfully boring, right? So obviously there are some amazing pieces in the Anastasia line that I absolutely love, and while I'm definitely glad that I got this palette, and I would have bought it anyways because you guys know I collect Anastasia palettes and whatnot, it's not my favorite color story they've ever put out. If I had to like rate the color story for my personal preference out of 10, I would probably give it like a 7, maybe a 7.5. It's not horrible, it's not bad. I totally see myself reaching for this one in the future, but it just doesn't excite me as much as some other things that they've released. Now, I know a lot of you have very different tastes from me, and I know a lot of you will be all about this color story and you like the grungy looks. And so obviously if you're into this color story, by all means grab it. The formulas are great, the pigmentations are really nice. The color story overall I do find very cohesive. It's just not my favorite types of shades. And so yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on this palette. I will say the exterior packaging, much more beautiful than I expected, much more beautiful than what I imagined when I saw the pictures online. So yeah, I'm going to link the palette below, and as it releases on like new retailers, I will definitely keep you guys updated on my community page. So keep an eye out over there. So yeah, that is all I have for today's video. If you're new to my channel, please don't leave without subscribing. I love doing videos like this one. I love reviewing new makeup, doing eye looks, doing swatches, comparison, etc. So keep up with all of the latest, most exciting makeup releases by subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I love you so much, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.